we got another game 7 with Houston and Oklahoma City. And that's the series, Rob, especially with Russell Westbrook out for the first 5 games or first 4 games of it. That's the series I was most intrigued by when the playoffs began. And last night we saw OKC come back and win 104-100. Chris Paul, of course, who had been traded by Houston to Oklahoma City for Russell Westbrook. I mean, Chris Paul was phenomenal, both offensively and defensively. 15 points in the fourth quarter, 8 of the last 12 points for the Thunder. And then conversely, Russell Westbrook was a disaster. 2 turnovers in the last 90 seconds, an air ball, a missed layup. It was, when you look at it from this perspective of that trade, it was a nightmare for Houston. And if they lose this series, Rob, it's going to be a nightmare. What will happen? Well, is Mike D'Antoni done? We know he's in the last year of his deal. There's already rumors about him being done have been. Is Daryl Morey the GM? Is he done? He cost the league hundreds of millions of dollars with the Hong Kong tweet. And now you trade it. Here's the thing about the Chris Paul trade. And Paul, we know, was on that bad contract. I remember before they signed him to it, I said, look, this is, I was being told they knew it was going to be a bad deal, but they pretty much had to do it. They felt like they owed him for him going there. But as bad as his deal was, Russell Westbrook actually has one more year at almost $48 million a year on his deal. Goodness. Yeah, he has got one more year left than Chris Paul. And I get it. Westbrook's younger. You think, okay, he's younger, we'll be better. And if they go out in the first round after taking on all that extra money, I mean, that's disaster.
I think you're right, and I think it would be a reason that they could get rid of Daryl Morey, Chris, because and use basketball as the reason why.
Because remember, there was talk. I think they would have got rid of him.
Oh, no, but there would have been so much pushback.
Because remember, he got a lot of political support from different politicians.
From people. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Because of what he said, which was about democracy.
Which was true,
Which was true, right. We both backed Daryl Morey on that he didn't say anything crazy. But I think that, yes, there will be sweeping changes because then you can justify it. You can definitely say, Mike, thanks very much, but he wound up being the same coach he was with the Suns, Chris, which was that they won a lot of games, during the regular season, but they couldn't get anywhere. They just, for whatever reason, it just didn't happen. And he had great teams with the Suns, and they just couldn't get there. And so I agree with you. I think this is huge. And if they lose to OKC, who looked like they were throwing the towel in,
Right. When they made that deal, everybody was waiting for Chris Paul to get traded.
Exactly. So that says a lot, and I think that would be the last straw for the owner of the Rockets. I think definitely there would be major repercussions, and I'm going to be honest. I might pick OKC in that game.
Well, I picked OKC in 6 to start the series. Yeah, because I knew
because of the injury.
I mean, I thought he'd miss maybe 2-3 games, and I felt that was enough. To be honest, though, and look, I think if the Rockets meet the Lakers, if they advance and beat OKC and meet the Lakers, they'll certainly have a better. I don't think they'll win, but they'll have a better chance of giving the Lakers some headaches with Westbrook. But against OKC, at least so far, they've been better without Westbrook on the court. And I think some of that's that he's still not really back. He's rusty, obviously. He doesn't have his game back yet. But yesterday, and here's where, we talked about D'Antoni. D'Antoni doesn't make major adjustments. If they miss 15 threes in a row, he's going to be like, keep shooting the three. No. Hey, how about moving in a little bit? Hit a 15-footer. See the ball go in the hole, something like that. No, he's going to keep shooting the three. And if you look at that fourth quarter, they were up by 6. OKC was up by 6 early in the fourth. Houston took Westbrook out for like 3 minutes, and they went on a 12-3 run. Houston did. took the lead by 3, and then they put Westbrook in almost like, because it's just you painting by numbers, and you just did what you usually do. And again, the rest is history. Struggled down the stretch, and obviously OKC won. So I think I get going to your stars late no matter what for the most part, but you could have let it play out a little more. I think they put Westbrook in with about 5-6 minutes left. You could have let him sit a little bit longer, see if you could ride this wave that your team was hot, and then brought him back later. So that's why D'Antoni, and I'm the rarity, Rob. I do think he's a Hall of Famer. When you look at other guys, like Don Nelson, some of these other coaches that are in the Hall of Fame, he did have a lot to do with changing the game. I know he obviously hadn't even gotten to a finals, let alone won one. But all that said, as good as I think he is, he's got major flaws. And they show up late in the playoffs typically, or in the playoffs, because he really doesn't pay a ton of attention to detail. And, that's all it's about in the playoffs. So, yeah, I think he'll be gone. And what they're talking about, New Orleans, maybe. He could end up there.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's just talk, but, that's out there.
And he's a little long in the tooth now, Chris. I don't know if that's is that the right situation?
Well, I mean, Alvin Gentry basically ran his offense. Alvin Gentry runs D'Antoni's offense.
Right. No, I get that.
A lot of it, so how's that? I mean, but Gentry, it didn't work with Gentry. Is it going to work? D'Antoni's a better coach, clearly.
And the same thing with Gentry, though. I mean, he lost his gig because it was lined up for them to make the playoffs, right?
The NBA all but escorted him into
at least tried to get him in
game.
There, right? And they couldn't even get there. If you remember, they lost the first game in the bubble. Now it was almost over from there.
Right.
And then they got, I think, game 2 they were blown out by the Clippers. Remember, they lost a game that they should have won, the first one. Then they got blown out by the Clippers, and then it was just an uphill battle. They never could get there.
Right. What do you think about, is this any indictment on Westbrook in your mind?
He's a great player. I don't know if I could just look at him just because he had a bad night, and just say.
But, yeah.
But ultimately.
Just the losing. He goes
no,
down
I know. I get it. If he goes down the first round,
yeah,
it's going to look bad on him and Harden, both of them.
Right.
It just will. And I get it. He wasn't 100%. Chris, I get all that. But you still say to yourself, especially when you look at the way that they lost that game, which it looked like they were going to win that game, right?
Right.
I think that's what you look at. It's like, okay, we get the early part of the series, but you had both of your stars were playing in that game.
Right. Yeah, look, Westbrook is a great, all-time. I mean, I say this. I mean, all-time, not top 10, top 20, anything like that. But he's certainly a Hall of Famer. I think he's going to be iconic because unless guys start averaging triple-doubles, every several years you see somebody, if it becomes like it's not that big of a deal anymore, like Luka could average a triple-double. And so if he does it, if maybe somebody else does it, maybe next year if LeBron did it, and if it takes some of the sting away from the triple-double average, that'll change this. But otherwise, Rob, when people mention Oscar Robertson, what's the first thing they think about?
Triple-double.
Right? For a season, he averaged a triple-double. He won a championship with Kareem. Lou Alcindor at that time in Milwaukee later in his career. But he was still a great player. He was the second best player on that team. And nobody talks about that. They talk about the triple-double season. And I think
only because 40 years had passed. Right.
Right. But
between,
decades from now, again, if nobody else does it, people will look back and say, man, this dude Westbrook averaged a triple-double 3 straight years.
And the thing that and we talk about this too, that I'm most impressed about is his record when he gets the triple-double. He's not getting them and they're losing.
Their team's record was much better, right?
Was much better. So it was like these games mattered and he helped his team win. If you told me he had a sub-500 record or something, Chris, or not a great record, and he had all those numbers, then it wouldn't move me as much.
Right. No, I'm with you there. And look, in the playoffs, though, the thing with Westbrook, and even these staunchest supporters will talk about this, his greatest strength is he's 100 miles an hour all the time, and that puts tremendous pressure on the defense, keeps them off balance all the time. But he plays that way the entire game. Like, he plays minute 47 just like he played minute 7 or minute 17, and that's what you saw last night. When you need to come down and get a good shot, he was out of control. And that's how he's been. A lot of times your greatest strength is your greatest weakness too. And that's how he's been. And that's where Mike D'Antoni, as Isaiah Thomas told us, he's got to know that James probably isn't going to Westbrook and saying, give me the rock. Get out of the way, give me the rock. So D'Antoni's got to do it. But D'Antoni doesn't like confrontation. And Russ is the strongest personality in that organization, at least in the basketball department. And so who's going to tell Russ, hey, late in games, let's get James the ball in his hands. You don't have to yell at him and do it confrontationally.
Right.
But you got to be able to say it.
Right. So-and-so's hot. Let's go with him. Or we need James here.
Right.
James,
and
I
Russ
need you to
has been
get
a
going.
great teammate all year. Russ is, until they went totally small, Russ was deferring. And then when they traded the big guy Capella and went small, that's when it became kind of a, 1A, 1B situation. And they were better for it until the bubble, so it's going to be interesting. But yeah, so you are going with OKC?
Yeah, I'm going to pick OKC. And Utah's in trouble. They're down by 12.
Yeah,
it doesn't look like things are going. So
well,
it might wind up being Denver.
I think
I know it's still a lot of time.
Picking Denver, I felt like they were, as I said, these teams are close, and you can throw, Houston and Dallas and, all those second-tier teams in the West. They're all very close. But I did feel like Denver was the better team. And, a lot of times, Rob, when you've got a better team than you, like, you got them right there, right? Your hands on their throat. You got them up against the wall. You're up 3-1, and you give them new life. A lot of times it can go badly for you. Remember when you were in Detroit, when Tracy McGrady and Orlando had Detroit, which was obviously a better team, had them down 3-1 and gave them life. Yeah, yep. And it was over. So
that was the emergence of Tayshaun Prince. Tayshaun Prince turned that series around. If you remember, Rick Carlisle took out who was the guy?
Yes, when he put Tayshaun in the starting line.
Michael Curry was the starter at that position, right?
Yep. So we'll see tonight. But yeah, see, I picked OKC. You know how we are. We want our picks to be right. But I'll say this, Rob. I would rather see the Lakers-Rockets in the second round. I just think that series has more juice. It's more intriguing. I mean, again, I think the Lakers win, but I just think it'd be more exciting. I think Houston could get, maybe a couple games from them, and it's an interesting series where even if OKC, if they beat Houston, I just don't think they give the Lakers any problems. I just really don't.
Zero.
And so, yeah. So
sweep, 5 games easily.
5. I don't see it going any more than 5.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd probably say 5. So, I'm torn because I want my pick to be right so I can brag, but I'd rather see Houston in that second round against the Lakers. So we'll see.